Hey friends, it's Tracy. Welcome to Country Charm by Tracy. I'm so glad that you're here. Today is a special day because I am bringing you some patriotic crafts on rustic country style. I am also teaming up with my wonderful, beautiful friend, Linda, who is Faith Chick 777's DIY by Design here on YouTube. And she and I have collaborated many times in the past, bringing you some fun seasonal creations. I love collaborating with Linda. And if you're coming over from Linda's channel, welcome. I hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel because I would love to have you be a part of my community. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into today's video and let me see what I prepare for you. Okay.
For project number 1, I'm going to be creating an American flag with an Old Glory tag. Now, I am using one of these frames that I picked up from Hobby Lobby during the 75% off sale. It was only $3.74. I love the rusticness of it. The way that the frame is that is exactly how it came. All right, that fabric that I was showing you, that is what I'm going to use on the first part to show you how I did the flag. Now I'm going to be adding a background, and I'm going to be doing the crackle technique with the school glue. And so the background is already white, but I wanted a more muted tone, so I used Cashew Waverly chalk paint. So I put that on there, and then here I am just putting on some school glue, just regular school glue, and really I put too much but I don't know this then, but as I go along, I should have put some of it back into the bottle because it was a little too thick, and I wanted it thicker because I wanted the bigger cracks, but I got a little bit too much. I guess the background of the whatever was that, backing on this individual frame, it was not very porous, and so it just kind of sat right on the top. So I just used my my foam brush just to brush that glue around, and then while it's still wet, I'm going on putting on a coat of just plaster color with chalk paint, then taking my heat tool just to kind of speed up the crackle process. And yeah, it was really thick, but it dried, but I just really wasted the glue because I really didn't need to put that much glue on there. So I'm just sharing kind of tips that I'm going along the way because of this project. I love the way that it turned out in the end, but in crafting, things are just going to happen. And so I was really looking for those big cracks like that. But yeah, it took a little bit longer because the glue was a little thick. All right, so then I'm using this ticking fabric that I've had on hand in my stash, and so this was going to be my stripes for the red on my flag. And so, but you can see that they're a little bit thinner, and what I did is I ripped them in about a little over an inch strips. And so I think that was my first mistake. I should have made them a little bit wider because in the end they were too thin. I'll show you that in just a second. And so for the stars part of it, now this is just a replica, just a craft project. There's nothing going to be anything precise. No disrespect to our American flag. This is just, something to celebrate the season. Just to do a little bit of the fraying edges, I just took my sanding sponge and just went around and frayed the edges just a little bit. All right, so then I'm going to add a little bit of stiffening to my strips as well as some coffee just to grunge them up a little bit. I was kind of going for the more grungy look, but these strips are way too thin, and I do not realize it until I get it actually finish the whole entire project. But I kind of am sharing with you in case you like the thinner strips. I'm just kind of sharing with you what I made and how I made this project. So for the blue fabric with the stars, I thought it was just a little too wide. So I just cut off a strip of that, and going to do the same thing just with some Mod Podge and some of the coffee just to grunge it up a bit. And then I'm going to start layering on my stripes on my board. Now, I know you see it as well as I do. It looks like bacon. That's what my grandson told me. He goes, Fanny, that's my grandma's name. that looks like strips of bacon. I was like, you know what? It really does. So I was kind of going for the wavy, Old Glory look. And so I was just putting those on there and just hot gluing them into strips. Thank goodness I did, because if I would have probably used a more permanent glue, I wouldn't have been able to take those off. And that's what I did, because I just put the strips on and did when I put the blue fabric on, I made my bow and all of that stuff. I really didn't like it. And so just because I added the hot glue, I was able to take off all of those stripes and the fabric, and then, make it with the fabric that I got at Hobby Lobby. So here I'm going to share how I made my bow on this bow dabra, and I am going to add a lot of these different little fabrics and just some ribbons of trim, some pearls. I have some pip berries that I'm going to add. I'm just going to add some, different strips of fabric and stuff. And so a lot of this this is just strips of fabric, and so I am just twisting it and just kind of just making a bow. And it was a little bit bigger than what I liked, but I don't know, I just got kind of carried away. I love just adding all of these different layers of ribbon and fabric and lace and trims and all of that stuff. You can just really make your bow as big or as little as you want, and then just tie it all off. I used a zip tie just to secure everything together. I stuck those pip berries in there in the middle so that they could stand out a little bit more. And an Americana project like this, especially an Old Glory, an American flag, definitely needed some pip berries. For the Old Glory tag, I just have a market tag that I've tea stained. I've had several of these for many years and pulled them out for projects like this. I really feel that it gives a bit of rustic touch that I like. All right, so I'm just doing some hand lettering and just using my black Sharpie marker and just drawing out or hand lettering Old Glory. Now, I know that this is just a little bit of, if this is not something that you can do or you want to do, you can use stickers, you can use stamps, you can use your Cricut, don't even put a sign at all. I just kind of like to share my projects and what I do, and I'm so grateful that you're here watching. All right, so I'll just add the little happy dots on each one of my letters like I like, and then I'll use my paint pen to add a little bit of white highlight in each of the dots. I also use a paint pen to add a little bit of doodling around the edges. Then I will use my Distress ink in Vintage Photo. That is my go-to ink for distressing, just to distress it and make it all rustic and cute the way that I like it. I added a bow of just hemp cording or jewelry cording, and I just like it. Just gives it a little bit of extra whimsical touch. I'm also adding the tag with a rusty safety pin because I couldn't tie it on. It was too thick. And so I love that because it gives a bit of more rustic goodness. And I just wanted to show you this here, how I attached the bow to the top part of my frame. This frame is wood, so I just used my stapler just to staple some of the fabric to attach the bow to the actual, part of the frame. And so I'm glad that I did this because then I was able to take all of that fabric off and do it the way that I wanted it for my, for my flag. And so I left all of this in here just to, if there's a person that wants to recreate it with the thinner strips like this, I wanted to show you what it would look like. This is still project number 1, but with option 2. All right, so I found the fabric that I wanted over at Hobby Lobby, and once I figured out that I could take off all of these stripes that I already had on, I know it's just a little bit of extra work, but I'm glad that I was able to remove this so I didn't have to, figure out somewhere else or some way else to do this project. So I'm going to use that same blue with the stars, and for my fabric I just kind of measured it out, just kind of guesstimated it, and then I just cut it down to the size that I wanted, and then just hot glued it there on the board. And I chose hot glue again because if I want to take it off and use the board for something else, I can do that. So I'm going to do that same technique with the Mod Podge and the Coffee Grunge to make it more distressed. So here I'm just tacking it down with some hot glue, and then I'll just use some Mod Podge and some coffee just to grunge it up. To just enhance it a bit more for my liking, I just took my antique wax, which I get over at Walmart. It's the Waverly brand, and I just stipple on a little bit more distressing just so that the whole project just kind of ties in together. And I absolutely love this second option, and I hope you do too. For my next project, I'm going to share a really quick little shelf sitter or tier tray little craft with you. All right, I'm starting with 3 of these plastic little mason jars from the Dollar Tree. You can get them at different times throughout the year. These just happen to be from Valentine's Day. I'm also going to be using some scrapbook paper that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, as well as some chalk paint. All right, so what I did, these small lids are just little metal lids, and I just decided to paint them with just some chalk paint. I'm doing blue for one and red for the other. And so the blue, this one right here was the Ocean Waverly blue, but that was not the color I was going for. So I'll go back later and add a layer of just acrylic navy blue. And so for the red, what I used is crimson chalk paint, and I gave it 2 coats of the chalk paint just to make sure that it had a really good coverage. As I mentioned, the scrapbook paper came from Hobby Lobby, and I just trimmed it down with my trimmer. Then what I'm going to do is, once I get the size that I want, I just roll it up and then just put it inside the jar, and it just kind of like expands what it needs to. And then I have an instant American flag in my mind. I do. And so I just, I think that this is really cute. Just, they're so versatile, kind of just really, I was kind of going for like those mason jars that you paint in a American flag type of, design. And so I think that this is a great little alternative. And since it's not, permanent, I can change out the paper for different seasons. And then I'll just repaint the lids. So I'm just saying, for those of us that don't want to have permanent things, that we want to share just some budget-friendly decor, this is a great alternative. I'm going back here real quick because once I put the paper in there, I decided I wanted it to be a little bit more even with the top so that I wouldn't have any space between there. So for the striped paper that I had trimmed off, I just taped it back and rolled it back over on itself, and you can't tell any difference. And I have an instant shelf sitter or 3-tier tray, decor piece that is very budget friendly. I just added some paint splatters using the sandstone chalk paint. Now I'm going to add a tag, and this little market tag is something that I had on hand. So I just take my ultrafine Sharpie marker, just hand letter America, and then do the happy dots, what I like to do. I'm also going to add some stitching with my black marker, as well as some white highlights in each of the happy dots, just with a white paint pen. I'm going to cut down this tag because it was a little wide, and so then I add the little stitching. Then I will use my Vintage Photo Distress ink. It is my go-to ink for this color, and so then I add a little bit of distressing to my tag, and then add my little happy dots. And then what I'll do is give the lids a coat of varnish, and this is the varnish that I like to use. You can get it off of Amazon. I do have it linked in my Amazon store if that is something that you're interested in, and this little just simple budget friendly patriotic project. For this project, I'm going to share my version of the primitive country firecrackers. Now, I've been wanting to make some of these for several years, and there's inspiration all over Pinterest and all over, Google. You can just really be inspired. All right, so what I have here these are some of the supplies I'm using. For the base of my firecracker, I'm just using hair rollers that I got from the Dollar Tree. And so, it has the part where the little bendy part, because these are hair rollers. And so I just needed to kind of pull that white piece back. There is a small hole. I didn't want to take that plastic piece out because if I wanted to bend my firecrackers, I wanted, to keep that all together. All right, so then what I did is I have this 4-ply jute. It's a little bit thicker jute that I get from Hobby Lobby, and that is going to be the wick, I guess, of the firecracker part of it. All right, so then I made one using some primitive fabric, that ticking fabric I had on hand, and those stars I got at Hobby Lobby recently. And so I wanted to make my firecracker just a little bit, the hair roller is green, and so I was going to have to paint it, or I wanted to make it a little bit thicker, so I decided to get just a brown lunch bag, just wrap that up. It made it a tad thicker, and then also it covered up the green, so I didn't have to paint it. So I just glued that on there, and then kind of figured out how I can cover up a bit of that green around the wick of the firecracker so that I didn't have to paint that either. All right, so then for the ticking fabric, I just have some of this, and I'm just hot gluing it all onto the bottom of the firecracker, and then around the top is where I will put the blue stars, and I just ripped the fabric just to give it a tattered look. Again, there are different, with fabric stores, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, all of that. You can find all different kind of patriotic fabric to suit your style and your decor to make your firecrackers the way that you would like. And for that jute, I will just kind of unravel it so that it looks a little wispy, and then just trim off any of the wick the way that I, want for the size of my firecrackers. Now, I could leave them like this, and again, you can, just whatever your decor style is, is perfect. You can change up the fabric with the patriotic fabric that is out there. I like a little more primitive country grunge, and so how I achieve that look is just some Mod Podge and some instant coffee, and I just spread the Mod Podge on and just sprinkle on the coffee. I could also add a little bit of cinnamon, but honestly, while I was doing this video, I kind of forgot about it, so I may go back and add a little bit more Mod Podge and put a little cinnamon on there just to give it a little bit of, just the sweet smells that I like for my primitive country projects. Okay, friends, today I am collaborating with my wonderful friend Linda, who is FaithChick777 DIY by Designs. If you are not already following Linda, I know you're going to want to. Linda and I have become great friends over the past few years. We've collaborated several times for seasonal decor, and I absolutely love Linda. She's so sweet and so creative, guys. She has such amazing things on her channel that are rustic and country and primitive. There's just a whole lot of other stuff, and she is so talented because she can sew and she can just really make something look beautiful. I love Linda's heart. She has a sweet, kind heart, and she shares the Lord's message, and it just I'm trying not to get choked up, but it just really touches my heart by the kind things and encouragement that she gives to us in each and every video. Linda's video for today's collaboration will be linked in the description box, as well as a link to her wonderful channel. Guys, thank you so much for being here, and if you're coming from Linda's channel, welcome to mine, and I hope that you stick around. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into the rest of the video. Project number 4 is sharing my primitive country rustic Uncle Sam. So I'm starting with a piece of weathered board. This is an old fence post. The brim of the hat is also a weathered piece of wood, and I'm going to show you here how I painted it up, but I end up changing it because I was not happy with it, and so I just could not do this brim. I was just not happy with it. Anyway, so what I'm doing now is this board measures about a little over 13 inches by 5.5. And so then I just traced out like where the face would go. And I am using the color medium flesh. That is a ceram coat paint color. And but I like the more a little darker flesh, but they're all kind of like Santa flesh, flesh tone, that kind of thing. Okay, so then I'm just taking my brush and navy acrylic paint, and I think this is a deco art color, but any kind of dark. I'm making it primitive country, so I have the dark reds, the dark blue, and then I'm just the antique white and all that stuff. And so here what I'm doing is painting the top and the sides antique white, and then that is going to be like the face and then the hat and all of that good stuff. For my stripes, I'm using a 1-inch flat paintbrush as well as some barn red paint color. It is a ceram coat color as well. So then I start in the middle and just take my time and just make these stripes. You can also use painter's tape, use a ruler, something like that, but I just wanted to, I'm here to encourage, inspire, and just to give ideas for different rustic country crafts. So I'll just continue to make my stripes with this barn red and all the way around how I like to do it. And then I usually give it about 2 coats of the barn red, and that gives a really good coverage. And I'm trying something new here. I get so many comments and feedback from just friends that say that it's very relaxing to watch painting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll put some different tidbits on the screen so that you kind of know what colors I'm using or what I'm doing. I just want to mention really quick, for my beard, I like to use this caulk that I get from the Dollar Tree in the tool section. I just put it on. I use that as my beard, and I just put it on just with a little craft stick, and so that I just spread it on like it's on, like I'm frosting a cupcake. That's just kind of how I describe it. So since I changed my mind and not used that God bless the USA part for the brim, I just traced out a pattern just on cardstock, and then I traced that out onto foam board, and then cut that out and just painted it with navy blue. I love that much better. I also added some paint splatters, what I like to do for my primitive country rustic projects. And so again, my purpose is just really to inspire, to entertain you, and to just, be part of the community that loves crafting and just sharing different ideas. I also added just a small, bow with just some fabrics and a rusty star that I had on hand. This is how I painted this shelf sitter, and through my primitive country rustic Uncle Sam, you were seeing it in the frame. I know, because I was going to use it as the brim of the hat, but then I had another thought, so that's why I'm doing this like this. Okay, so I'm just taking the flat number 2 paintbrush that's in that paint pack that I like to use, that is in my Amazon shop. And so I do have the gift of hand lettering. The Lord has given me the patience and also the determination to learn how to hand letter. And sometimes I'm a little rusty if I don't hand letter for a while. And so, it is kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. And so I just hand letter God Bless America, put my little happy dots on there as well. Then I go back and use just a very thin, small round brush and just write out the. And so I liked the, just the whimsiness of this right here. And so then, as I said, I just, decided to use this as a little shelf sitter versus the brim of the hat for my primitive country rustic Uncle Sam. I so enjoyed creating these Americana Patriotic crafts for the season. Don't forget, this is a collaboration with Linda from Faith Chick 777's DIY by Design. Her video link and a channel will be in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you so much. God bless you, and we will see you in the next video. Have a great day.